Hi, Chomi. So, in this episode, we'll delve into 9 difficulties or challenges that a friendship can be faced with and how you can possibly overcome them.
Hi, Chomi. Welcome to another episode of Meet Me in My Corner. I am Dr. K and I'm your host. So, I'm actually a little bit excited about this episode because it's one of my favorite topics. I will never have a season and not talk about friendships. Okay, you need to understand that I think it's one of the most important relationships of your life, and every opportunity I can get to speak about it, whether we get to the same point or not, I am going to do so. And this time, we're speaking about things that make friendships difficult. Okay. So this is in no particular order. And thank you so much if you contribute to this conversation. So if you follow Meet Me on My Corner on Instagram, then you must have seen the question box on our status and you've contributed in some way to make this conversation a little bit more robust. And what I love about that is at least you see that I see you and you're definitely honored in the things that we're talking about. Yeah, so I love to have you included in it. Okay, so the first one I want to speak about is lack of vulnerability, right? At Lilo Mel was someone that actually brought this up. It came up quite a bit of times, but she was the first person to bring it up. So, vulnerability really allows a relationship to get quite deep, right? If you know anything about me, you know I am a huge advocate of vulnerability. I feel like it's done so much for me as a person, creatively, but also in my relationships. It really allows for a very deep connection. When you are vulnerable with someone, you're telling them that you trust them and you feel safe with them. That makes them feel so good, okay? For some people, if you're not a person that they want to be vulnerable with, that can put pressure on them. And it, for them, could be something that could deter them away from you. So, vulnerability, I think for me, is an indicator of how close we are. You know, how you respond to my vulnerability, what you do with it. So, are you going to take what I share with you in a very vulnerable state? And are you going to use that as gossip or ammunition against me? Or is this something that is going to make you love me more and see me more, you know? And obviously, if it's the latter, then the relationship will be so deep, the connection will be so great. Um, but I also realize and understand that people have different upbringings, and for them to get to a place of vulnerability takes some time. So this is not a like a this is not something that will make you decide or like a make or break in terms of a relationship, right? Especially if it's very early on. Allow somebody to really warm up to you. And I feel that where somebody can see that there's grace and kindness, they'll be more willing and likely to get to a very vulnerable stage. But I can understand why this is something that Lelo would bring up because it's also very important to me. If I can't have that vulnerability with my friends, then I don't feel that we're that connected to each other. And I feel very blessed in that the friendships that I have, we're very vulnerable with each other, but in different ways, you know, in different ways. There's certain things that we also, you know, can be vulnerable about with different people, you know. So there's friends I'm completely vulnerable about everything with. Well, actually, I'm vulnerable with everyone, to be quite honest with you. But there are friendships where, you know, maybe where you feel that you're not so connected to the person, where the vulnerability has limits. You know, it's there, but it has limits because you're not completely trusting of that situation. You don't feel completely safe because that person is also not open with you, right? Okay, so that one makes sense. Number two, expectations where a relationship policy has not been established. I believe in a relationship policy, okay? No, that's a lie. I don't. I believe in it in hindsight because I have seen the detriment of not having open communication about our needs in friendships. where that can land us up, expectations normally lead to disappointment, right? And Neo and Palissa, you were both the people that really brought this up in the comment box. So this is where actually love language should actually be spoken about and discussed and established, right? um, I think it is very important that we do see friendships as like how we look at romantic and intimate relationships. The amount of effort that you're going to be putting in to get to know your significant other should be also invested in a friendship, especially if it's a new friendship. So having that open discussion about, hey, this is how I like to be loved. So like one thing with me, I'm not really good on the phone. Um, I'm I'm always on my phone, but I'm always on social media, which is not great. I'm not the best texter, but I have been called out about that. And because that person called me out about it, and because they really matter to me, I have made efforts in making sure that they feel safer with me. So I call them. I don't wait for them to call me. I initiate calls, I initiate texts, and sometimes I sporadically text them like, I miss you and I love you, just to affirm them, just to say that I really care about you. I do think about you. Sometimes I just get lost in my world. But that's because we had that discussion, and this person actually shared with me that I don't feel like you loving me properly. I don't feel safe in this friendship because of the things that you do, because they're accustomed to that. They're used to being treated in such a way that calls are something that is quite normal and routine, and maybe that's because of the friendships that they've had, and now they've established a new relationship with this person, Katleho, and Katleho doesn't always text back. Yeah, I need to work on that. I won't lie. I do definitely need to work on that. But I have gotten better. I will say I have really gotten better, especially with this friendship, because I did want to make it to a point that this person understands that I really, really love them. I really, really care about them, and they matter to me. And then that brings me to communication styles as well, right? So, besides the communication means, or the modes of communication, so whether we're texting, whether we're calling each other, whether we're Instagramming each other, whether we're video calling, whatever it is, right? That also needs to be established. I have a friendship group where we call each other, I think, weekly. Sometimes we're very hot about each other and we're calling each other every day. We're on video calls every day, but our video calls take about 2 to 4 hours. So that takes a lot of time, so we can't always do that. However, I have friendships with people where we're like Instagramming each other all the time. We Instagram each other memes. That's how we prefer to engage with each other. And then I have friends who want us to talk once in a while, and we have a huge catch up session, and we feel really good in that catch up session, and we just move on with life, and then we meet up, right? But also the communication style in the form of how are we talking to each other, so especially during conflict, right? That's where a lot of communication styles are challenged and seen and expressed, right? So, how do you communicate when you're unhappy with me? Do you even communicate? Ooh, that's another one, right? Because if you're not communicating, resentment is building up. You'll feel contempt towards me. And then that's how we start to see friendships fizzling out without a proper goodbye and without like a proper, resolution, to the issues. So that's also very important. Are we bickering with each other? Is that how we see us communicating with each other? Do we feel safe when we do that? Obviously not. I really think that if you're shouting at someone the whole time, it's not a good communication style. But also, do we hold space for each other where we can really communicate our feelings? Are you somebody that actually doesn't like to communicate all the time? How does that make another person feel? Yeah. And then that brings me to boundaries. Okay. Because boundaries is also something that comes into that relationship policy, right? So you need to establish your boundaries. I know boundaries now is used now as like an inflammatory word, where people feel that people use it so that they don't have to They don't have to take accountability for certain things. But I still think boundaries are very important. And maybe you can look at it in another way, you know? It's just you sharing with somebody that this is how I operate, and this is a button that I'll allow you to touch, and this is a button that you cannot touch at all. So, with that comes life stages, right? So, if you have a friendship with the other sex, a boundary would be that we don't communicate in the evening, or my partner might not be as comfortable if you and I don't know. I don't know how those friendships work. I'm not saying you can't be friends with the opposite sex, though. No, I've seen successful friendships with the opposite sex where there's literally no jealousy, no weird vibes. Most of the time, those friendships do really well if there has never ever been a love interest between the two. Okay, so yeah, so there needs to be some sort of, I don't want to say rules, but a policy around that. Like, okay, how do we behave in our friendship so that other friendships are not, other relationships are not affected, right? Boundaries like we don't talk about my mom, or we don't discuss certain things with other groups of friends. So we might have mutual friends, but this is the only thing that stays between the both of us. You know, those are also boundaries. Okay. Yeah, I think that's very important. And then that really brings me then to the third point, which is different life stages, right? Hluke and Gatlechompiti, you both brought this up. And I thought it was amazing because I was also thinking about this quite a lot, because I lost a friendship during a big life transition of mine, right? Where I became a mom, and yeah, it just didn't work, and the friendship was not sustained. I'll never know why, but it just wasn't sustained, right? And those things happen quite a lot. I think a lot of women talk about that big transition leading to friendship loss. But for some people, you know, they have a child and the friendships are even more strengthened, right? But it's not always easy to manage. And I can understand from even the perspective or the side of the person that doesn't have the child, right? It's a big change. Now, all of a sudden, you're not as accessible to me, you know, and I don't want to come across as selfish. I don't want to come across as self centered and self absorbed. But I was so accustomed to our friendship being in this certain way. And now, all of a sudden, I'm sharing you with so many people. Like I shared you with your partner, and that was okay. That was cool because we could always make it work. But now with the baby, I can't make it work with you as much, you know? So we now need to establish a different friendship policy, which still makes the friendship feel like it's not lost. You know, the essence of it, the connection, the intimacy of it is not lost. But yeah, different life stages can definitely be quite difficult. I'm fortunate in that the friends that I do have that are not in the life stages that I'm in, so who are not married, who haven't started their families, that there is no big divide between us. There's certain things that I am not so, you know, I don't have the luxury to do with them. But I've come to understand that certain things I need to miss out on. It is what it is, you know. But I still feel very included. I still feel very seen by my friends. There's actually one friend of mine that I'm very close to, and we're going through different stages in our lives in a different way. So we're both caregivers, but in different ways. So I'm a caregiver to my child, but she's a caregiver to her parent, and that is difficult. But in some weird way, it's made me understand her even better, and it's made us even closer. So she doesn't have a family of her own, and I am not taking care of my parents, but there's restrictions and there's limitations in both our lives that we're able to show compassion towards and be empathetic towards for each other, you know. Yeah, that's really made us actually quite close, like really close. And I really genuinely want to be there for her during this phase, because it's such a difficult phase for her to be in, because it's a different type of caregiving. It's not an exciting caregiving. Like for me, obviously it's a child with milestones and I'm excited to see my child grow. Yes, there's difficulties and so forth, but it's not the same as watching your parent or having an older parent, and just she's teaching me a lot. She's teaching me a lot about how to show up for people. She's teaching me a lot about how to be there for people, because I see her navigate her life and her other friendships. It's been such an eye opener for me. She's trying her hardest to not make it her full identity. It forms part of her identity right now, but it's not her full identity. She still makes time for herself. She still makes time for us. Um, Dealing with as much as she's dealing with, and when things are tough, she calls on us. And yeah, it's for me, it's like the closeness is even more because how she leans on me. We never used to have that before, you know so yeah, it's quite great. And the funniest thing is that because of what she's going through, she's very attracted to being with me and my child. So it's like we're meeting each other where our needs are. So certain life stages can actually work to the advantage of the friendship and so forth. But I think that's also something that we need to talk about, friendships going through those kinds of life stages. So not the exciting life stages, not the, oh, getting a new job, family, your family growing, getting married and all this stuff. Let's talk about dealing with life stages where we are now taking care of our parents are sick, or we have a loved one that is not doing well, or we're dealing with death, and it just feels like it's death after death after death. Like, how are we dealing with that? Or now all of a sudden you are a breadwinner for your whole family. How do I support you during that? You and I used to be just free little monkeys living our lives. We were carefree. Now all of a sudden you have all these responsibilities because a parent passed away, and now you're taking care of your sibling. It's things like that. Like, it can make a friendship difficult, but I also think that it can give you an opportunity to grow with someone, and you have an opportunity to also be developed in that situation, and your relationship can actually become closer. So yeah, there's that. And then we go to number 4, secret animosity, jealousy. Okay, Tsoho underscore 15. She put this there. Secret animosity is a real thing. Somebody else also mentioned, meanness, um, making things seem like it's a joke when it's really not, where you're just trying to be mean. Yeah, I don't know if we've all been there, but I know I've been there. I've been friends with someone who didn't like me, so the frenemy, and I have a whole podcast episode about beware of the frenemy. And maybe sometimes you're the frenemy. Sorry, Chomi. Maybe you are the person, you know, that is very jealous of your friend, and you just can't help yourself. The spirit has taken over you. By the way, I just need to put it out there, like I have in my previous podcast episodes. Jealousy is a normal and a natural feeling. It's what you do with it that is the decider of whether it's healthy or unhealthy. Okay, so if you become the jealousy, Terry Henry speaks about this, about how you can become the emotion, and if you look at it spiritually, so you actually take in that spirit and you become that emotion. So now you're not just jealous, you're very envious and you're acting on that. So you are making your friends second guess themselves. You're throwing a lot of negative talk towards your friend so that they can get to a place where they feel very small. Chomi, it's a problem. It's a problem, Chomi. You need to be aware of that, okay? If you're asking God, especially if you're asking God, but if you're asking anything, maybe even in the universe, why them and not me? That's a very, it's not a nice place to be, Chomi. Don't do that. don't do that. Not with your friends. By the way, I had a conversation with someone about this. We were at odds about this. We didn't agree, right? That two people, friends, can do the same thing and they can still be friends. A good example of that actually are people that I know personally. I want to say the name, but I don't want to make this, I don't want to sensationalize this. But I know two people who do the same thing, who are in the same industry, and they are genuine friends. It really works. Like, I have been around them. There's no animosity. And why? It's because I think that they have a true understanding of their true purpose, their own purpose. And they understand that nobody can interfere with that. So there's no place for jealousy because you're not a threat to me as much as I'm not a threat to you. Chomi, we can be in the same space. We can both be on TV. Rashaina really too, you know? And I think that that's very important. Um, Even like with helping your friends in your industry, let's say, like for me, I do content creation. I am in the influencing world. It's a lucrative world. I will never ever gatekeep. Never. There's just so much money in it. I will never gatekeep, especially not for my friends. What I'm not. I'm not worried. I am me. They are them. They need their space. In actual fact, I want my friends to actually start to do more content creation and just start to thrive in this world because honestly, the pie is so big. It is so big. And it would be great for us to really enjoy it together, and it'll make sense for the fifth point that I'm going to put here. But yeah, animosity can really be a huge deterrent of a relationship. I think it doesn't even make a friendship difficult; it makes a friendship impossible. You cannot be friends with someone that you secretly hate, that you secretly wish you were, whose life that makes you feel lesser than, because you're always going to be negative. You're going to be negative towards yourself and you're going to be negative towards them. And that's not good for you. Okay. Fifth point, finances. Okay. D underscore Tserufatso and Hola World spoke about this. Very tough one. Hola World actually made a very good example about this. She says, having friendships where it's always about going out when you don't have enough money to even, when you have only enough money for a taxi fare. Yeah, this one is tough, hey? This one is tough. I have personally never been in a friendship where finances has made it difficult. Okay, no, let me not lie. I can imagine for the other person it's made it a little bit difficult, right? Where they probably feel that they can't go out with us, maybe if we are going out, because there'll be a burden, because their finances are not where ours is. Yeah, so actually, let me be fair. So, yes, I have had a friendship where, but we're very close and I love that person. And I know sometimes they pull away in general because of the stresses that relate to financial pressures. And that fine can make a friendship difficult because then we can't connect, right? And maybe sometimes they just not, they're not, they don't feel comfortable, to share. Finances is just, it's such a tough one because it, it can make someone feel lesser than, and that's not a nice feeling. Whereas in a friendship we should both feel like equal parts, right? But it can make someone feel, it can really knock someone's confidence. It really can. And outside of the friendship, but it can knock someone's confidence personally, where they don't even know how to show up as a friend and they don't have that capacity. And I'm still trying to figure out how to work it out with friends who are going through a financially tough time. Is it like, definitely helping is always something I would definitely do, if I can, if I have the means. But I want to try figure out like how do we have the conversation in terms of like how do I help you so that you know we get to a place where you feel comfortable with me so you don't feel alone, because that pressure is just, it's not good for your mental health. But then again, also, you can't be captain save a person or maybe your friend actually doesn't want you to fit that role. So it's also like that boundary that you need to work through. But finances, yeah, it's a tough one. It's a very tough one, especially if someone has a loss of finances. So has a loss of income suddenly, so you guys were possibly at the same place, you were able to do the same things, now all of a sudden they have a loss of income, and it's a huge destabilization to their world, you know. Finances ish. Chelete abora. Yo. I just hate that money makes people feel lesser than. And it's how in society we treat people who don't have money. If you treat someone like they are a burden, if you treat them like, hey, we're not chelete, or if it's always if every interaction always includes money, then it's a little bit difficult. And in this day and age, it feels like a lot of the interactions that we always have to include money because we're always going out and stuff. I mean, there was even a day a friend of mine. Look, we didn't meet up because of the finances wasn't the reason why we weren't meeting up. It was just the thing of like always like trying to schedule it in and trying to find a special moment. I was just like, man, you live right here. Like, bring your children, be in pajamas, and come over. And then it was a thing of, oh, okay, but friend, it's that time of the month. I cannot, but just come, I don't want finances to be a reason why I can't connect to people, but I do also understand that I need to respect that for somebody, it can be too much of an exposure and they're not comfortable with that. They're not ready for that. But I also think it's just a society we live in where people are benchmarked or, regarded according to their financial status. And I saw this specifically with my life. There was a group of people that never used to regard me, but only as soon as I became a doctor, it was like, oh, you know, yeah, but that's a story for another day. I just think people are so weird. But yeah, hopefully, Chomi, you won't lose a friendship because your friend is going through a tough time financially. I'm praying that, you guys are able to find a breakthrough together, and wherever you can support, you are able to support. Now let's go to number 6, victimhood. Victimhood is a tough one. Okay. So victimhood, where someone struggles with separating themselves from their traumas, right? Someone whose traumas become their full identity, and they self-sabotage and they behave and they have bad habits because of this victimhood mentality. Okay. I think all of us have sometimes found ourselves in a very self-absorbed place where we think like things are happening to us, where we don't realize the actions that we are putting out for things to be happening, right? And we kind of feel sorry for ourselves. That is in keeping with normal, right? If it's like a phase. But if it's like your full personality, if it's an everyday thing where every single time um, you're interacting with this person, or someone is interacting with you, and the only thing that they're getting from you is the world is against me, it's difficult. I will tell you this, it's a very difficult to be in friendships like that, because not all of us can be around issues all the time, right? It's okay for a friend to go through a hard time and so forth, but and there are sometimes situations where a friend is going through a phase. It happens, by the way, where it's like a year or 2 years. Yeah, I have a friend who's going through 2 years, but she doesn't carry what she's going through as her full personality. I'm still able to reach her and reach other sides of her, and I think that one, it's such a blessing that she allows that. But I'm grateful and appreciative of that, because that's what also connects us deeper, right? Um, yeah, so there's nothing wrong with going through a phase. I just need to put that out there. There's nothing wrong with being in a very tough time, and tough times can last for a bit of time, but it's when it becomes your full personality, when you also are doing things that are not good for you, that are not healthy for you because of this. And your friend has to keep watching you self-sabotage and stay in this place of just no growth and no nurture. No, no, it's not about nurturing. No nourishment, rather. Let me rather put it as that. No nourishment in your life where things just things just don't prosper in your life, where it just feels like there's no moving forward. And it's not that it's impossible, it's because your mindset has made it impossible for you. So yeah, and it's difficult to break someone out of that. It's just so difficult to break someone out of the habit of feeling like a victim and having that victim mentality. And then Zo Manglele, I feel like you're speaking to this. She speaks about lack of accountability, right? It's people who struggle with victimhood who will lack accountability, right? There's also other personalities that lack accountability, but I found personally in my life where it's like you're not taking accountability for the things that are happening in your life. You're not taking accountability for why our friendship is not working. You're not taking accountability for, I don't know, anything else because you feel like the world is against you. You feel like things should be happening for you. You're not waking up. You're not taking life by the horns. And you like, Chomi, like, ema ka maoto, ema. Like life is so hard, guys. I will never ever invalidate anybody's experience of life. Life is hard. It doesn't matter what you've gone through, whether someone feels that it's not a big trauma or it's a small trauma, whatever. Trauma is trauma. If you've had a big negative event happen in your life that has changed your outlook of life, that is traumatic, right? Definitely, I understand that. But don't make that who you are. It's part of your story. It's not who you are. It's not the full picture of you. You are so much more. You have so much more. And you can overcome that, Chomi. You can. You can. Please don't make that who you are, Chomi. Gotta wait every day. O ikutlwelela botlhoko o etse o skepsele me Chomi, tsoga 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 Chomi, tsoga. Live life. You deserve it. You deserve it. And I think sometimes we think that staying in that place allows our scars to be validated, or like it's like we're honoring our pain. So, or we're honoring the experience. So I need to stay in this place because I need to honor this experience. There's an episode on Diary of a CEO where a young woman speaks about this. She's an African immigrant living in London, and she speaks about how victim mentality and victimhood really messed up her life. Look, she's on the other side of it. She's so strong. But how she talks about it, ooh, ooh, I ate it up. I ate it up. She opened up my eyes, and she was just talking about like how you can really sabotage your future. She found herself in a cycle of, substance abuse, and also in toxic relationships, sexual addiction, and she just couldn't see herself leading a very good life. It got to a point where her family cut her off because they couldn't watch her go through that pain and put herself through trauma, through continuous trauma. So it was like she was trying to pay back the initial trauma with more trauma. It was like that pain had to be felt in other ways. And she speaks about how, you feel this pain in your heart, so you have to make it physical. You have to make it physical. You have to show, there needs to be evidence that your life is falling apart. So you put yourself in positions for your life to fall apart. Yeah, yo, that episode. If you look for it, please enjoy it. It will open up your eyes because we can all fall into that trap. By the way, nobody is safe from that. It doesn't mean that, a person who finds himself in victimhood is a weak person. No, we can all find ourselves there, I would say, from my side, pray against it. But yeah, you can definitely find yourself there. But what she speaks about will open up your eyes, and I think will make you even more conscious of it, especially with your loved ones, people around you. And for me specifically, teenagers, teenagers are also very susceptible to that, where they grow up to be adults that are victims. Yeah, it's a tough one. In friendships, it's a very tough one. Okay, let's go to the next one. Group dynamics. So, yeah, I always feel like someone will always feel left out or thrown to the side in a group dynamic. I'm not a huge fan of groups. I've been in groups before. It's very normal for people to find themselves in groups. You know, do groups always bomb? No, they're groups that work. I have a friendship group now that works, but it's because we're three. It's only three of us, and one person is a gay man. I think that works really well. I love our friendship group. I love it so much. We're very different people. We have very different needs. What aligns us very well. I enjoy that friendship group so much. And the nice part is we know each other in different ways and we're able to step in for each other. So it is possible that, me and the one friend can have um, a disagreement, but the other party will always come in and try to resolve it, or vice versa. But yeah, we always find our ways back to each other. There are no issues, there are no brewing issues, there's no secret animosity amongst us. And I find that sometimes in friendship groups, because I've been in a friendship group where we're three, but we're three girls, and we're three girls just trying to find ourselves and find our feet. We had just entered university and we're dating the same type of men. What does that mean? Do you get where I'm going with this one? You get where I'm going with this one? It can happen, okay? You will date the same men, okay? And little Ola, you will fight, all right? You will fight. Okay, so friendship groups can work. They can work. But sometimes what I find, especially with big groups, there are people that then they will group themselves in within the group, and then decide conversations, and also sometimes like you're in this group because a friend of yours has invited you in it, but you don't like, now you're supposed to get along with someone that you don't really click with. Now it's a kind of like forcing it, and because it's not working, the other person feels really hard done by. Now you feel this huge responsibility to make something work that actually doesn't work for you, but you have to make it work for the greater good of the group. Our labile, our group. I am so sorry. I cannot do it. For me personally, it will never work. My people, it works. My people, it works. Enjoy Navia. Me and my we love each other. We enjoy each other. But a big group, okay. My friends will side eye me on this. I've put them in a group, but they are not meant to be friends. Mm-mm. It's just for me to make sure I can see them all. But we know we get along actually. Home another one, Ryan Joyanna. Okay, maybe I don't know. Maybe I should actually have a conversation with them, but they don't have to be friends. Funny enough, some of them have found each other in different phases of their lives, and they've connected on their own. But I include in na, and I have no jealousy with that. By the way, I include in na. It's just them, whatever they have their own life, whatever. That works for me. But when we are di Chomi ba botle every day ra para go tshwana. Hey, now today we're wearing red shirts, guys. Hey, we're going out here. Hey, we're doing this. No, oh no, group assignments. No, leave me out. Leave me out. No, I'm not doing that. Okay, number 8, value misalignment. Right. So this is where um, we we had our friendship policy. Okay, you and I, we have our friendship policy. There are things that we both value. So maybe um we value respect of parents or whatever, right? And now all of a sudden one of us doesn't value that anymore, and we change. That can cause for a lot of mistrust, and for a lot of people, it makes them feel unsafe. In actual fact, I feel like this makes a friendship impossible instead of difficult. Sometimes you're able to bring someone back to the values, but sometimes it's just you just see the world very differently to each other. And this can happen, by the way. And this happens mostly with friendships that start in a different phase of your life. So maybe you start in adolescence and then you grow into adulthood, right? And you are probably separated. You live in different worlds. So maybe you go to university, I take a gap year and I start working, and I view life very differently to you now, right? And what I'm exposed to changes what I value and what I see as values, right? And that can really lead to us not really aligning, and it can be very difficult, right? Um, this comes a lot with politics and religion, mostly, especially politics. Especially with what's happening now in the world, it's very interesting to see what your friends value and what you value, and how you both look at life, right? So, yeah, this can put you at two opposite ends of the world and just make it very difficult for you guys to connect and to feel safe with one another. And then the last one, this is the very last one, Chomi. We're done with the episode. The phone, social media. And I'm guilty of this. Okay? I'm guilty of this because I'm always on my phone. But with this specifically, what I wanted to talk about is this thing of basing our friendship now on social media. So, you know how people speak about how they feel pressure in their romantic relationships because of social media? It's like, hey, people are going on yachts, people are going on very serious vacations, people are proposing, whatever, and now you start to put pressure on your significant other because you don't see that in your life. This can also happen in friendships. Like, hey, these friends are doing this. Hey, this friend is doing this. Da 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 da. But where you're not taking the context of where you both are, right? So there are friends right now who, if you're looking at social media, they are traveling, and they may be traveling every month. I can't travel every month. So if a friend expects that of me, it'll be very weird. It'll be very, very weird. I would look at them like, firstly, chelete, no. Two, kubi againia, tumelo, hey, and then that can cause a little bit of a divide where the friend feels like, actually, you just, I don't know, like, now I value this. Now this is something that is important to me because I'm seeing this on social media. This is what I'm consuming. I feel like this is what makes a friendship look like it's doing well, and you're not willing to give that to me, so you're not going to work for me. Okay, this has not happened to me though, I must say. My friends are very we're sharp sharp. But this can happen. It genuinely can. It genuinely can. And also this thing of like social media has created now new expectations. Like, now you need to be posted on people's birthdays, right? You need to post people on their birthdays on your page. Even if you're going through a very tough time and maybe you prefer to actually call them, or that used to be a thing. You guys used to call and see each other in person, but now all of a sudden it's reduced to just a social media status. And how you do it, it's also a big thing. Like, what time you do it. Hey, now all of a sudden your friend has not seen your status. Get for on the birthday. Hey, this person does not care about me. And Luena, you're only thinking of that as your effort. You're not even thinking of calling your friend. So it's things like that. Um, Also this thing of um you know social media engagement, right? Yes, so I'm a content creator. I don't look at if my friends like my stuff. I'm very blessed though. They do. But I don't have to look at that, but they do. They genuinely support me. My friends support me. But I don't have to look at that, right? But it can make relationships a little bit difficult. I won't lie to you. It can. And especially if it's a new friendship, right? Where you, and in the beginning, especially new friendships are these days, in the beginning, la banana, it's nice, whatever. And there's a lot of social media back and forth. We're interacting a lot on social media. So if there's any change in that, it could make someone feel oh, okay, is something wrong? Are we not okay? And so forth. So social media has put a spanner in the works, right? It's not wrong or right, right? It's not wrong if you feel hot down by that your friend does not like your post. It's not wrong, especially if you see them like other people's posts. But if your friend does not like social media at all, then Chomi, please, hey, Tlola Chomi ew. Leave them alone. They just don't like social media, and you have to respect that. Okay, that needs to go into your friendship policy. When you need to talk about social media, big thing. Social media is really, as I said before, has put a span in the works. And also, if you start seeing your friend behave differently on social media, that'll make you feel differently about them, right? I put myself out there on social media a lot. My friends will feel very weird if I'm not myself. I am genuinely myself. I am a goofball. I don't always have makeup on. I'm not perfect. As soon as I put on that perfect look, I know my friends are going to be like, this is not you. As soon as I say one thing in private with them and I say a different thing in public, they're going to ask, that is not you. What is going on? That is not you, you know? So that can also make things a little bit weird. But also, another thing is we have a false perception of closeness because of social media. So I feel like our efforts are not as much. I will say this even for myself. There's a friend of mine that we met up and we realized when we were together that we had not seen each other in a year, and it was long. It was long. It wasn't just a year, it was long. We laughed about it when we saw each other. We laughed, but it was actually not funny. And we spoke about it. Actually, that's what made us see each other, because I was speaking about this on my stories, right? That I feel like we have a false perception of closeness with each other because we see each other's stories. So you think that you are engaging in that person's life. And I've spoken about this before. I'm going to speak about it again. You feel like you're engaging in someone's life and you're there and you know what's up because they are updating you online on a social media status, but it's not really intimate. It's not your friendship. And then, yeah, then she texted me. She's like, when, you and I are bad. We haven't seen each other in person in so long. We met up, and like my idea of who she was at that time and the reality of who she was were completely two different things. And it, yes, it goes to show that really what you see on social media is not, it's not the full picture. I'm not going to say it's not the truth. It's not the full picture of a person, right? So she obviously curates what she shares online, and it's a snippet into her life. But when I was sitting with her, now I'm remembering the fullness of her life. So now we're talking about her mom. She doesn't share her mom on social media. Now we're talking about her mom. Mom, how young? Hey, dude, my mom is sick. Hey, Banna. Wow, yeah, dude, we've been having a tough time. I wasn't there for you. I wasn't able to be there for you. Why? Because now all I'm seeing are these highlight reels that you are posting of your life, but I'm forgetting that that is not the fullness of your life. So, yeah, social media can also do that to us. So we need to be very careful with that. But that yeah, that day when I was sitting with her and we were like looking at each other's eyes and we were laughing about it, but we're just like, dude, what? You really going through this? And even with her, with me, she was like, oh, I thought like you share everything. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, you went through this. I'm like, yeah, dude, I went through that. Like, no somonati. Oh, damn. I wish I was there for you because I actually went through something similar. How? We could have supported each other. So, yeah. In actual fact, her and I are still not good with each other. I'm gonna call her after this. Kumufudla after this. We still haven't seen each other since then. We saw each other this year, luckily. And the nice part is I took Nia, and she hasn't seen Nia in a very long time. But yeah, well, she saw me at my wedding, but I mean, I couldn't spend time with people at my wedding. So I've seen her recently, but I need to have intimate time with her again because I need updates on where she is. But yeah, so those are the 9 things that I could think about. And thank you to you for um, being so amazing and being so wonderful in terms of your engagement and just listening and just wanting to meet me in my corner. Um, I know sometimes I say things that are probably just like, raise my eyebrow, but that's great, right? That's how we engage, that's how we connect with each other. And I really hope this conversation can turn on a light bulb and make your friendships even deeper. You most probably have really good friends around you. You just probably need to find your way to each other and start to work out some of the difficulties. And maybe if you figured out that actually I have a friendship that is not working, cut your losses. And if you meet new people, please come up with the friendship policy. Tumela always tells me about this. Like, have you shared your expectations with this friend? Every time I have an issue with a friend, like, did you share your expectations with this friend? Yeah, because expectations are an easy way to lead to unnecessary disappointment as well as resentment. Okay, so yeah, that's that. And I can't wait to see you again in my corner next week, Thursday. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I can't wait for you to hear me again next week, Thursday. Okay, bye, Chomi.